Good morning, everyone, and happy Biodiversity Day. I see lots and lots of us on the call today. It's so great to have you all joining us on this very special Biodiversity Day. My name is Ian, and I'm standing here as your host at Chino Hills State Park in Southern California. So we have so many wonderful parks joining us today, showcasing their wonderful biodiversity for us. So it's wonderful seeing all of these amazing comments roll through. So we do also have a very special guest before we get started, who would like to say a few words from Seacliff State Beach.
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Armando Quintero, and I'm the director of the California State Park System. And I'm here with Ashley and Leslie. They just disappeared on me. But I just wanted to wish you all a great California Biodiversity Day. And it is so wonderful that you all are learning more about the incredible abundance of life that we have in this incredible state. And hopefully you're learning about the things that we can do to continue to maintain that incredible biodiversity in this most incredible place that we live in, which is California. And I hope you all have a great day. And it was wonderful to be with you this morning to start. I have to go to work now, so see you later from Seacliff State Beach.
Thank you for that wonderful welcome and intro. So we are going to start with our first park. So we have Jennifer at Gaviota State Park. So Jennifer, let's show where you are on a wonderful map, and then you can go ahead and show us your species.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm glad you could join us today. Let's see. You want me to show the map here? I have a photo of where we are. Couple photos. All right, so we are at Gaviota State Beach today. It's a beautiful sunny day out here, and we are kind of in the elbow of California here, as you can see on the map in the right-hand corner. So we're in that little elbow that sticks out by Point Conception, and we're just underneath that point. Let's see if I can draw a circle around it here. We are right there. So I also wanted to point out that one thing that makes our park special here is that we have 72 miles of relatively undisturbed coastline here. And so that makes us really unique on the Southern California coast, is that it hasn't been disturbed for quite some time. And so that really helps increase our biodiversity here at our park and along the Gaviota coast. And you can see from this map, we also have another special thing about our park is that it's part of a marine protected area. So you can see at the top of this map here where it says Point Conception, and then it says Cache Taiit, which is the Chumash word for Place of the Willows. And that is the Chumash name for our park here at Gaviota State Beach. And there's also Naples, Campus Point, and Goleta Slough there. And so those are all marine protected areas along our coast. And then we have another 14 marine protected areas surrounding the Channel Islands just off of our coast here. So that is something really special about our beaches here. So there are 124 marine protected areas along the California coast where you see all these little colored dots. And so they make up about 16% of California's coast, which is awesome. And there's also an initiative right now to get 30% of the California coast protected by 2030. So that's something that California is trying to do to protect even more of our coastline. And also protecting the biodiversity of life out here. So one of the great things about this marine protected area and why it's important is that it preserves the biodiversity out in the ocean, but also on the land. And ours is about a 2-mile square, and it covers the beach and the rocky shore, and it extends all the way out into the ocean. And so it's kind of like an underwater marine park protected area. And that helps it also increase the quantity of animals out there and also the biodiversity of animals. And so there's no commercial fishing allowed in our marine protected area. You can do recreational fishing, but no commercial fishing. And so that really helps increase the population of animals and allows them to get to their full adult size. And that's really important because adult fish have a lot more offspring. And so you're going to help keep the population nice and strong if you can allow the fish to get mature and have a lot more eggs and a lot more offspring. So that's really important. And it also, because the population is healthy, it also makes the population of animals more resilient when things happen like ocean warming or storms or other things that can damage the ecosystem or the habitat. If you've got a healthy population, that's going to be a lot more resilient to things happening, climate events or climate change things that happen. So it's really important to help protect and preserve that habitat. All right. So one of the animals that's really significant out here, because we have a lot of kelp beds off of our coast, and the kelp beds are so important because they are home to hundreds of animals out here. And so that's one of the amazing features of our park that makes it really unique. There's also the Gaviota pier here, and a lot of animals use this almost like an artificial reef. And so a lot of animals will live on the pier pilings here, which is a unique feature. We also have oil derricks out in the channel that support a lot of marine life out there. All right, well, one thing you guys can do before I say goodbye is to take 3 for the sea, as we like to say, and pick up trash and keep that off of the beaches so that it doesn't pollute the ocean or the animals end up eating it. So one simple thing you can do is take 3 for the sea. All right, back to you, Ian.
Thank you from Gaviota. So we have 2 questions that I saw in our Q&A. The first is, what is one of your favorite species that you find at your park?
Oh, one of my favorite species out here is the abalone. And I don't know if you can see that on here, but it's a beautiful, it's a type of sea snail, and they have a beautiful rainbow shell, and they are an endangered species in our park. And so the marine protected area, they are protected here from harvest, but that's one of my favorite animals.
And how about plant species?
Oh, plant species. I think the sand verbena. We have that growing out here in our little sand dune area off of the beach, and it's just a pretty little purple flower. So I really like that one.
Very nice. So keep a look for those if you ever travel out to Gaviota.
Yeah, come visit us.
We now have our next park. We are going to be traveling further south into Riverside County to California Citrus State Historic Park with Jose. Jose, show us your species.
Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Jose. I am a state park interpreter here at California Citrus State Historic Park. And so here in Southern California, specifically in Riverside where I'm at, we have, we're predominantly a semi-arid desert, so almost a desert, but not fully a full desert. And a lot of the biodiversity that we have here encompasses the chaparral ecosystem. You know, all that means is that here in this part of Southern California, we have really hot and dry summers and mildly cold and wet winters. One of the plants that I wanted to highlight today is right behind me, actually. This is a California native plant called California brittle bush. Right now, as you can see, it's not really in bloom. If this flower were to be in bloom, it'd have really beautiful yellow petals. It's often commonly called the bush sunflower because the flowers look like sunflowers. So right now, because you know we're right in the middle of summer, there are no flowers, but if you come back and visit us during the spring, this whole entire area will be covered in that California brittle bush. It's so beautiful. We also have other plants in our park, such as the California sage scrub, and as well as the California buckwheat. So those are just some plants that we have here in our park that are native to this area. So, you know, prior to development, prior to settlement here, this is the typical landscape that you would see here at California Citrus. Here at our park, we're actually pretty special because not only do we have, you know, native plants and wildlife species here, but we're pretty unique in that we are one of the newer California state parks. We're actually celebrating our 30th anniversary at the end of this month. And so our park is predominantly known for its diversity in citrus. So if you're not familiar with the different varieties of citrus fruit, I don't blame you. There's almost 2,000 species of citrus fruit across the world. And even then, every day there are new varieties of citrus being discovered. So here in our have what we call our varietal groves, which are, I'll turn around, they're right behind me. So our varietal grove here has over 70 different varieties of citrus fruit. They all have derived from 4 ancestors. So there are 4 ancestral citrus fruits, the first being the pepita, which limes originated from, the citron, so lemons originated from citron. There's the pomelo, so it's the grandfather of the grapefruit. And then there is also the kumquat, or no, excuse me, the mandarin. But kumquat is in there. It's kind of highly debated whether it's an ancestor or not. But mandarin, so oranges came from the mandarin. And so I'm actually going to take you guys on a little walk through our groves here. So I'm gonna citrus fruits, which you may or may not have seen this variety in your stores. It's the fingered citron, or commonly known as the Buddha's hand. Right now, it's not really in season, but you can kind of see the fruit already forming. And here, let me just show you guys what that looks like. So I'm gonna flip my camera. So you can probably see why it's called the fingered citron. The coolest citrus fruits that we have here in our park. And right now it's not really citrus season, but if you come and visit us, I'd say, you know, December through like April, that's the peak of citrus season. And that's when we will have a lot of fruit in our trees. And if you come and visit us, you'll get to try some of the over 70 different varieties of citrus fruit that we have here in our park. And it just so happens that I'm also here at one of my favorite views. Let me flip the camera for y'all one more time. So we have approximately 247 acres here in our park. That's predominantly a big scale citrus operation. And so you could see it's pretty big. So yeah. So yeah, definitely come check us out and you'll get to see all of the different types of fruit that we have here in our park.
Thank you, Jose. And we have some questions. So, what is your favorite native wildflower at the park?
In our park, I'd say it's probably the one that I showed you all. It wasn't in bloom, but the brittle bush. It's super beautiful.
And then what's your favorite variety of citrus in those groves?
In the groves, we have a Cara navel orange. It's really delicious. It's a lot more sweeter than your typical navel orange, and it has like a pink color on the inside. So it's pretty cool.
And then one more question from the chat since we have time is, does citrus require more water than other plants?
Citrus, more than other plants? I'm not entirely sure if I'm being honest with you. But one thing that came to mind with that question is, sorry, we got a helicopter over there. What has really helped the citrus industry in this area is a person by the name of Matthew Gage. He actually helped create what is now the Gage Canal. It's named after him. He was able to bring water from the San Bernardino mountain ranges on the Santa Ana River, and he was able to bring water here to Riverside to be able to water all the citrus groves here in this area. And now I believe so he had the rights to that water, and now those rights belong to the city of Riverside.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to get out to taste some of that amazing citrus. So we are on to our next part. We have Ashley and Leslie at Seacliff State Beach up in Santa Cruz. So take it away and show us your species.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Seacliff State Beach and happy California Biodiversity Day. My name is Ashley. I'm joined by my good friend, Leslie. Hi. And this morning we are at one of the first state beaches here in California, Seacliff State Beach, located just south of Santa Cruz. And this beach is within the heart of the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary, which is a protected area that includes all of the water that you see behind us on this foggy morning. And by protecting this area of the ocean, we are providing a safe spot for a whole lot of different animals. And that's not only animals that call the ocean home, but animals that live on the beach as well, whether those are little bugs living in the sand crabs, to larger animals like whales, dolphins, seals, and we'll even get the occasional sea otter. But in between us, right back here, you might notice this big old thing out in the water. This is actually a concrete ship named the SS Palo Alto. And it was built back in 1919, over 100 years ago, and it has been here at Seacliff since about the 1930s. And even though it's all broken up into several pieces now, it provides an important habitat for a lot of animals. The ship is over 400 feet long, with open areas in it that allow ocean water to fill those spots. And I'm gonna pass it off to Leslie, who's gonna introduce you all to a couple of animals that call that ship home.
So having that concrete ship here at Seacliff State Beach provides a hard spot or space for animals to live that wouldn't typically be able to live here. So we oftentimes find animals that would live in reef systems or also in the tide pool areas living on this concrete ship. So I'm gonna try and in a little bit hold up, or I'll do it right now. I'm going to hold up a sea star. I'm hoping you guys can kind of see this sea star through this camera here, but we do see lots of sea stars on the concrete ship. And they have these little tube feet here that help them to grip onto that concrete, or if they were in a rocky tidal zone, you would see them gripping onto the rocks there. Now, one of the cool things about sea stars is they can regenerate limbs that have dropped off, or maybe a predator has attacked them and taken one of their arms. They can regrow arms. I don't want to pick this sea star up out of the water for its own safety, but maybe you can see some of those tube feet reaching up onto the side of the glass there. We also tend to see lots of birds on the concrete ship, and one of those birds happens to be a cormorant. At any given time throughout the day, we can see hundreds of cormorants on the concrete ship. Now, most birds have hollow bones. It's something that's unique to bird species. Those hollow bones help them to be as light as possible so they can take off and fly through the air. But cormorants have different bones. They have solid bones, kind of like you and I. So their bones are pretty heavy compared to other birds. But these heavier bones help them to dive underneath the ocean so they can grab fish out of the water. So living here at Seacliff State Beach off that concrete ship provides a great place for them to rest, but also get lots of opportunities for fishing. Now, those heavy bones help them to dive hundreds of feet underwater, but that also means they have a hard time taking off for flight. So you might see them running across the water to get up enough speed to lift off. So next time you're at Seacliff, make sure you're looking out on the water's horizon for the birds that are running across the water. Those might be cormorants. You can also use binoculars or come into the visitor center and use our spotting scopes to get a closer look at the birds that are actually resting there on the ship. We don't just see cormorants, we also see seagulls, we see pelicans, and lots of other shorebirds. Occasionally, we will also see sea lions and seals taking a nice break from the water up on that bow at low tide.
And so that's just a few animals that we see here at Seacliff. Again, we're located within a protected area. And so by taking care of the ocean, we are protecting all these animals home. And with that, we'll pass it back to Ian.
Thank you. So we do have a few questions in our Q&A for you. So the first is, what is that concrete ship doing there, and does it still work?
Great question. So this ship was originally built to be used in World War I as an oil tanker, and people were worried that there would be a steel shortage. So somebody came up with the brilliant idea, why don't we start building ships out of concrete? And yes, concrete, just like the sidewalks are made out of. And the boat did, in fact, float at one time, but it never served in wartime because the war ended. It sat up in Oakland, about an hour and a half away from us here at Seacliff for about 10 years, was brought down here to Seacliff, was turned into a party boat. So there was a restaurant, a ballroom for dancing, even a saltwater swimming pool, and it became this great hangout spot. But it only lasted for 2 years because of the Great Depression. The company went bankrupt. But ever since then, it's been here as a piece of history and serving as an artificial reef. And unfortunately, as much as I do wish the ship could still work, it is sadly broken into several pieces. since it's sitting on the bottom of the ocean. And when we get big storms that come through, it really takes a toll on the ship.
Wonderful. And then second question for each of you. What is your favorite species that you find?
Ooh.
Go for it, Leslie.
I have to say the sea otter. I am a sucker for sea otters, so it's always a special day when we happen to see them floating on their backs over in the kelp that might be close to surface, close to shore, I should say.
And then this is a really hard question for me because I love all of the animals that we have here at Sea Cliff. Taking a step away from the marine environment, we also have animals that live on land. And so we've been seeing a couple of red-tailed hawks soaring around recently, and even seen one dive into the bushes, grab a gopher, and fly off into another tree to enjoy its breakfast. So I think right now, if we're taking a step away from the ocean, it's the red-tailed hawk at the moment.
Thank you. Thank you from Sea Cliff State Beach. So we now have our next presenter just north of San Francisco. We have Hillary at Mount Tamalpais State Park. So Hillary, show us your species.
Hello and welcome virtually to Mount Tamalpais State Park. My name is Hillary and I am standing on the east peak of Mount Tam, as we call it for short, enjoying a beautiful California Biodiversity Day, as I hope you are as well. Take a look around here. Above the clouds on this mountain, the top of the mountain behind me is 2,571 feet high. And here's all that San Francisco fog. Can't see San Francisco today, but this fog is nourishing the coast redwood forests that are below us. So Mount Tamalpais is a big mountain park. The state park alone has over 6,000 acres of land. We also have neighboring national park land and neighboring parkland operated by our water utility. So all over this mountain, there are lots and lots of protected parkland with lots of different habitats here. It's a pretty special place. So it's a great place to go hiking because you can just see a lot in a hike. My biodiversity week hike did about 6 habitats in 3 miles. You can just make a little bit out over there. We've got our beautiful grassland overlooking the Pacific Ocean. You can see the mixed oak and Douglas fir woodland there. We can't see our coastal scrub or our coast redwood forest from here, but up here on East Peak, which is the hottest, driest part of the mountain in summer and the coldest part of the mountain in winter, so very harsh, relatively harsh environment up here. We have chaparral again, although a little different from the chaparral down in Riverside, which is a little more desert-like. And I do love the chaparral because everything here is amazingly drought resistant and it does well in this harsh environment. And also during the spring wildflower season, it comes alive with a rainbow of colors of wildflowers. It is so beautiful. Although one of the first things to flower is the species I'm going to talk about, the manzanita. So manzanita are one of my favorite plant species here on Mount Tam. The manzanita is a very special plant. You can see now it's got these little berries on it. They are technically edible, but we're not allowed to eat anything or collect anything in the state park. But the animals are certainly enjoying them, even though for humans they don't necessarily taste very good. maybe a little like brown sugar if you get them when they're perfectly ripe, but super, super sour if you eat them when they're not ripe. And there's a lot of poop and scat along the trail right now that's filled with these little berries. And yeah, manzanita is super cool. You can see it's a beautiful plant there. You can see the beautiful red bark there, and you can see it peeling. That's a fun feature. The flowers when they're coming in are pink, and there are at least 110 species of manzanita worldwide, and most of them are found in California. This is Eastwood's manzanita, named for Alice Eastwood, a famous botanist who worked on this mountain. Also on East Peak, there's Cushing's manzanita, which Alice Eastwood named for her friend, Sidney Cushing. It's a related subspecies. And there's at least 3 other species of manzanita just on this mountain, including one species, Marin manzanita, that's only found in Marin County, where we are. And of course, there's Mount Tamalpais manzanita, which is only found on Mount Tamalpais. And the reason it's so unique and why we have so many unique plants here is that there's a lot of unique soil types here. This is serpentine soil. So serpentine, our state rock, green rock, and it's not very healthy for a lot of plants. So this Mount Tamalpais manzanita is especially adapted to the low calcium, lower nitrogen, and higher in magnesium and heavy metals soil of serpentine, and has smaller leaves than the Eastwood's manzanita we were looking at. But it is another pretty one. And because we have so many different species of manzanita, they bloom at different times so we can enjoy them for longer. That's why I love them, and that's the species I wanted to show you. So I'll hand it back to Ian now, so I can answer some questions.
Yeah, thank you. It sounds like you've already answered one of the first questions, which what is your favorite species? But what kind of animals live on the mountain?
All kinds of animals. Unfortunately, for our biodiversity did suffer from colonization and development, but we do still get a lot of different mammal species. Probably one of my favorites is the coyote. We get a lot of different bird species. Our creeks do get some fish species, including endangered species of fish. We get amphibians and reptiles like frogs, including our California state frog, the California red-legged frog, snakes and lizards, including rattlesnakes, newts, back to amphibians. Just a lot of beautiful animals. I love our tiny birds. For other animals, I love watching our little red-breasted nuthatches go, because they go head first down trees. They're so cute.
Thank you. And then one real quick question: a 6th grade class wants to ask if they could walk on the clouds.
Well, I wouldn't recommend trying it, but you can walk above the clouds here. This trail here next to me is fully paved and mostly level, so it is wheelchair and stroller accessible, as well as accessible to walking or running or jogging. So you can definitely enjoy that feeling, or you can go up top. Enjoy the view up there.
Thank you, Hillary. So we are on to our next park. We are headed even further north up to Prairie Creek Redwoods with Kyle and Kenzie. So Kyle and Kenzie, show us your species.
Hello, everybody. I'm Kenzie, and this is Kyle, and we are up here in the very, very far northern coastal part of California. We're actually at Prairie Creek Redwoods State Park right now. Coast redwoods are the tallest trees in the entire world, so I'm just going to give you a short little tour of our trees here. These trees can be up to about 400 feet tall. And it's kind of hard to see how tall that actually is in this video, but let me get you this little shed for reference. So if you guys have like a football field at your school and one of these trees were to fall across that football field, this tree would actually cover the entire length of the field and then about 100 feet more. So these trees are pretty tall. We have a lot of different plants and animals that live here in the Coast Redwood Forest. Since these trees are so tall, they actually span through 3 different climatic zones. So down here where I am at the forest floor, it's pretty shady, it's nice and damp. We have a lot of different animals that live way down here that are specially adapted to this area of the forest floor. We also have different animals that live way, way, way up high who prefer the sunshine and the drier weather. And I kind of like to compare these trees to apartment buildings just because so many animals can live all up and down the length of these trees. So let's start with the forest floor just a little bit. We have some cool plants that live down here. First up, we have some ferns. Lots of different kinds of ferns here. And then we also have this special plant right here called redwood sorrel. So these plants really like the shade down here on the forest floor. If it gets too sunny here, they'll actually close down their leaves, kind of like a little umbrella, to hide from the sunshine. Oh, what are you doing here, Slug Ranger? Everybody say hi to Slug Ranger. And this is just one of the animals you can find down here on the forest floor. So since it is Biodiversity Day and we want to observe wildlife in a safe manner, I'm going to teach you guys the rule of thumb here. So if you see an animal in front of you, you want to stick out your thumb, and if you can cover the entire animal, then that means you're a safe distance away. So I actually need to move a little further from Slug Ranger. I think we're about good there. So if you guys decide to go out and do some observations, just remember that rule of thumb to stay nice and far away. We have a lot of banana slugs out here in the park. You can see them on the forest floor sometimes. They're kind of our mascot here because they eat just about everything except for redwood trees. We also have animals like bears, mountain lions, elk, all kinds of things. Sometimes we even see salamanders out here, and I actually saw one earlier. So I'm going to go check real quick and see if we can find that for you. They really like these dark places like this woodshed. Let's see, it might be under here. If you guys go out looking for animals, you can look for salamanders. You just want to be really, really careful, and you want to turn over logs really carefully and then be sure to place them back where they are. So I didn't see the salamander again. He must have crawled away, but luckily we got a picture of him to add to iNaturalist so everyone else can see him later. Up in the tops of the trees, we have a lot of animals like owls, bats, the marbled murrelet, which is an endangered seabird, and even plankton. So if you guys have ever watched SpongeBob, we have a little plankton up there, like plankton from SpongeBob. And now I'm going to pass it back to Kyle. He's going to tell you a little bit about our creeks and watersheds here.
Yeah, and in the old growth redwood forest, I'm a firm believer that the creeks are some of the best places to look for wildlife. And one of the things that you can do is come right along the side of the creek and actually pick up rocks, and make sure you pick them up and face them away from you just in case there's a bug on there that doesn't jump right at you and you start getting all squeamish. But you could pick up that rock and then take a look at it. You can actually find a variety of different bugs that live in these creeks. And these are really important for us to focus on because they're indicator species.
They tell us how healthy that creek is and maybe we need to do some restoration upstream. But you can also find a bunch of other animals living in the creeks. One of the things that you could find are some of these different types of salmon species up here on the North Coast. We have an array of different salmon, and sometimes of the years you have a better chance of seeing them. They like when the creeks are a little more filled up right after some fresh rain, and we get plenty of that up here on the North Coast. But there's some other animals that you can look for along the creek. I mean, all animals really use creeks, and some animals you might not be lucky enough to actually see there at the creek at that moment, but you could find evidence of that animal. And you can look down at the sand along the creek and you could see tracks. And you might find bear tracks, mountain lion tracks, bobcat tracks, all different forms of evidence that there was an animal there using that creek. But there's something else that we can use to help us indicate that there is an animal at that creek. And do you have it with us, Kenzie? It starts with an S and ends with a T.
Do you mean this?
And sure enough, it is scat. This is a mold. So it looks very real, does not smell real. It is a mold of some bear scat that you can find up here on the North Coast. And I like to think that scat is one of the best indicators because it tells us first that that animal was there at the creek. And then also, Hillary was mentioning, it can tell us about some of the plants in that area. You could find berries that are left in that scat. Maybe it's scat from an owl pellet. And it can tell you, you could see some fur or maybe a skull. And it tells you about the rodents that are in that area. So scat is a pretty good indicator for telling us what kind of biodiversity is in that area. But back to you, Ian. Hopefully we have some.
Thank you. So same quick question to you. What's your favorite species?
Ooh, for me, I think my favorite species up here are probably the river otters. Pretty similar to the sea otters that Seacliff was talking about, but a little bit smaller, and you find them in our creeks.
That's a really, really hard question. Probably my favorite's probably going to be the banana slug.
Very nice. One of my personal favorites too. So thank you up at Prairie Creek Redwoods. So thank you all for joining us on this wonderful Biodiversity Day podcast, showcasing 6 of our 280 state parks. Now, Biodiversity Day is still ongoing right now. We have lots of opportunities for you to get outside and document your findings, document the species you see in your neighborhoods, in your communities, or in state parks. We use an app called iNaturalist to help record and document all of these species. And on the screen here, you see our 2023 California Biodiversity Day event page on iNaturalist, where you can find lots of those BioBlitz events at several of our parks. And if you're worried about how do I get to a state park, there are lots of ways that you can go. We have lots of classrooms on today. And did you know that if you are a 4th grader, you can sign up for the California State Park Adventure Pass? So it is a free pass for all 4th graders to visit currently 19 state parks. So 2 of the parks today that you heard from accept this pass: California Citrus State Historic Park and Gaviota. I'm sorry, Seacliff. And if you don't have a 4th grader, or you are not a 4th grader, and you have a California library card, you can go to your local library and check out a parking pass. It's the California State Library Parks Pass. So these are available from almost every California State Library, and you simply check it out like a book. So again, thank you all for joining us. I'm here at Chino Hill State Park, and from all of our park sites, we would love to say Happy Biodiversity Day, and we hope that you come and visit us soon.